flag salute. Led by Mr. Capobianco. Are you a new grandfather now, Mr. Capobianco? Congratulations.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the board meeting of May 28, 2013. Just like to remind you, if there's an emergency, we exit out the rear of the building. There's also exit to the front of the building. Go to your vehicles. Please stay with them. Do not leave until so directed by emergency service personnel. Also, if you are smokers, it's a non-smoking building. Please take advantage of the rainy night. You all had a Memorial Day weekend, weather and all. The parade yesterday, I think that Memorial Day is probably, for me, in the village, the most important event that we have. You know, barring none others. And I put into that, you know, there's this holiday parade, 4th of July, Veterans Day. I don't think there's a day that's more important here than that day. So hopefully you had the opportunity to come to the parade. And I think what always I enjoy the most about the day, or what humbles me the most about the day, is the fact we have 2 junior high school bands that play. So you have about 100 kids, junior high school kids, that come to this parade, and they see it, and then the other families that bring their kids. It's an opportunity to talk about the history of our country and the sacrifices made for us to be who we are. So hopefully you had the opportunity. If you haven't been to one of the Memorial Day celebrations here in the village, put it on your calendar next year. It's worth the price of admission, and it's worth the time to honor those veterans, to honor those that have passed. You know, one of the things that always amazed me, and I made a comment on it yesterday, is that World War II, 416,000 deaths. Since in the last 10 years, 6,700 more. 1,321,000 since Lexington and Concord. You begin to look at those numbers, and the wars fought, they were fought, tells you a story about who we are. But that being said, think about it next year if you didn't have the opportunity. It is one of the more moving things that happen within this community. Let's look.
Yes, good evening, everybody. One approval for the board meeting minutes of May 13, 2013.
Motion.
Accept as presented. Second.
Second.
Any additions or deletions? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Okay. Treasurer Crosser could not be with us this evening, so I will be doing the bills. The bills for the period total $474,408.70. Top 5 bills: New York State Employee Health for the monthly premium, $109,561.93. LIPA, $40,851.61 for electric. Jayco, $29,078.70 for 380 Bay Avenue aprons and curbing. Eastern Resource for landfill charges, $25,844.09. And Global Monticello, $13,831.43 for diesel fuel, totaling $219,167.76. If we could have a motion, please.
Motion to accept as presented.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
And we do have a few adjustments. Set up the capital projects for the theater walkway project, getting revenue for $77,000 from the Suffolk County Round 9 grant, and adding an expense account to the theater walkway in the amount of $77,000.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
We have budget transfers to clean up end of the year accounts. I won't read them all, but for
As
this,
presented.
as presented.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I believe that's it for me.
We also
Oh, I apologize.
request approval for all non-union employees for the part-time to receive a 2% increase effective June 1st, which is consistent with the union contract also.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Was it 6, 8 months ago? We approved
thank Mayor Panieri, Deputy Mayor Jack Krieger, and the rest of the board members for inviting us here tonight. It's always a pleasure to be here to do our explanation of the things that are going on in the theater. And we're really excited tonight to tell you about the plan that we have put together. And I brought the cheerleaders with me here, and these are all members of the board who are going to do a presentation on some of the things that have happened in the last 6 months at the theater. Last fall, we met with several consulting firms because the theater board decided that we were at a point that we needed some long-range plans to put together so that we could improve a lot of things about the theater in terms of expanding our acts, getting more people into the theater, and being able to raise the funds to be able to get another level of some of the type of the performance that we wanted to have in the Patchogue Theater. After interviewing the firms, we chose a local consulting team, a firm to come in and who was very familiar with a team-based organizational plan, which is what we wanted to have. We wanted to be able to participate in working as a group to come up with the kinds of things that we felt were important to include in this 5-year plan. So we started in, I believe it was November or late October, and we put in about, how many hours did we say, Chris? 18 hours, 18 to 20 hours, working as groups once a week, and we have developed a 5-year strategic plan. The firm that we chose is, as I said, a local firm. They work with the U.S. Department of Education, they work with the City of Baltimore, Maryland, some groups in Connecticut, and many local companies here. Including the village and the Patchogue Medford School District. So after working together, it really gave us an opportunity as a group to get to know one another. We only were meeting for our board meetings, and we all worked very well together as a board, but this experience allowed us to get to know each other as people, and it was the most rewarding experience we had, because talk about having a cohesive group is a huge thing that we achieved, and as a result, we think we've come out with an excellent plan. Did the members of the board get a copy of the plan? Okay, so we have an idea then what's going on. What I'd like to do this evening is I'd like to focus on one of the things that we've done is we've put together these subcommittees. We have 4 major committees, and these committees are made up of a chairman of the board of that committee, and in some cases a co-chair. And those committees then put together their ideas for what the responsibility of those committees were going to do. One committee is for programming. The other one is for like the buildings and ground, the building and the maintenance of the building interior. The other one is our program committee, and then we have a gala committee. So each member of the board is either chair or co-chair of that, and then they bring other community members or other people onto that board who are interested in working in promoting the theater as a whole. We range from 10 people on one committee to 4 or 5 people on another committee, and then one of our committees, they're going to change. Chris Capobianco will explain to you how his committee works. It's a little different than the rest of them. So I think the best thing to do right now is to bring them up so that they can tell you about it, and then you can come back to us with questions about this, because not all of our members could make it this evening, so we tried to get them all in, but it was kind of late notice, and we couldn't get everyone here. But I think you'll get a full picture of what's going on, and I'd like them to take part in it, because there's such enthusiasm for this that they all deserve to be here and let you hear what their committees are going to do. First of all, I'd like to introduce Ryan Murphy. He is on the fundraising committee. He's co-chair with 2 other members, and he will give you a little bit about his committee. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank the board and the mayor for having us here tonight. As one of the new members of the theater board, it's been a very rewarding and great experience thus far working with the rest of the theater board, and this whole development of a strategic plan was certainly a great crash course from the perspective of a new member on where they've come from over the years and taken the theater and the progress that's been made. And I know it brought myself and Chris Searles as the 2 members probably very well up to speed on things. As far as the fundraising committee, it's probably very self-explanatory to most people. But where we're at right now, so far the theater's received 2 county grants this year. One was a $10,000 grant in the way of tourism, and the other one was a $5,000 Main Street grant. We have 2 state grant applications out right now that are pending. We have started another fundraising project with regards to a guitar raffle, which we've already profited on. All of the main stage acts over the course of the season are signing that, and it's pretty much 100% profits that we've already done well on, and expect to continue to make somewhere in the neighborhood of about $5,000 on that by the time all is said and done. We have already gotten commitments from at least 2 different individuals or corporations with regards to plaques on the donor wall. Those plaques sell for $1,000 a piece. It's 2 definite, possibly 3, and of course we're trying to increase that on a daily basis, and that's one of our big strategies, is to try and sell the remainder of the plaques on that donor wall, which would probably lead to about $45,000 more for us when all is said and done, and I don't foresee us having any problem with accomplishing that goal. The reoccurring journal playbill ad campaign is already in progress. And we're, of course, pursuing any other available not-for-profit and corporate, competitive grants that we become aware of as time goes on. We're looking at a couple from some banks and financial institutions right now, some of whom have branches within our jurisdiction here in the village that, would be great to see them support the theater a little bit as well. So, unless anybody has any additional questions with regards to the fundraising, just a brief overview. And I know the committee is described pretty well in the plan that was provided as well.
Thank you, Ryan.
Just a couple of things to add on to that. In terms of the fundraising, we have established a endowment fund. Our goal is over the next 5 years to raise $100,000, $1 million into that fund. You have to wish big, so why not? We've met with an attorney who has given us some advice in terms of the kinds of things that we have to think about before we meet with them to officially do it, but we expect to have the endowment up and running by our new season, which will be in the fall of the year. In addition to that, we're working on a membership program. Our next meeting will be devoted to setting up the types of memberships that you can have. I'm sure you've seen in other theaters how if you become a member of the theater group, there are different levels, and those are the levels that we're going to be working on, where people can become members of the theater from the thousands of dollars down to smaller amounts, and hopefully that will, besides bringing in income, it will increase the number of people that will be coming to the theater. If you take a vested interest in it, you are going to want to see more of the shows that we have there. And the other thing that we're doing, Brian, I'm surprised you didn't mention this. We have the guitar.
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it, I'm sorry. So we're going to plan to do these kinds of things throughout the year as well to be able to increase the funding and of course continue to work on the grants. Right now I'd like to ask Chris Capabianco, who is the co-chair of the programming committee.
Hi, everybody. I've been a volunteer at the theater since 1998, on the board since 2007, so a lot of you know me in that regard, but programming's been my passion from the beginning, and we're just about to finish our 8th season of programming on our Live in the Lobby series, which will be, last show will be June 6th. That's a series that features local original talent from Long Island. It's been successful from the point of view of really supporting local artists. It certainly has gotten our venue a lot of recognition. It's not a huge moneymaker, but it doesn't lose money. And we have really established a venue within a venue in our lobby. And we're looking at a lot of different things in our lobby, and I'm sure John Cassese will talk about it as far as the Capital Projects Committee. But we're also looking to make our performance space in the lobby more of a permanent space with permanent lighting, permanent speakers, because it's been very successful. Part of the growth of Live in the Lobby was 2 other series that we've done over the years, and one of them we did receive funding to start up again, called Music on Main Street, and that'll start in the fall. And that's more towards a classical chamber music type of an event, so that'll be starting up again in the fall as well. We already are booking the Live in the Lobby season for the fall. For the first time, we're going to have a national act in the lobby with Jen Chapin on October 10th. So that's kind of where we're going with that. Now, as far as the program committee, if you're out and around town, which we all certainly are, it's hard to run into somebody and not get introduced as having involvement with the theater, and you're inevitably here. You should get fill in the blank to the theater. Sure, it's just that easy. But you know, we've done very well with programming this year. We're having a very good year. We've had 4 sold out shows this year so far. We're anticipating our 5th next month. Those shows are Lee Bryce and Girls with Guitars, which were presented by JVC Broadcasting. Golden Oldies show in March was presented by Mickey B's. And for the very first time ever, one of our own productions, which was the Bacon Brothers 2 weeks ago, was a complete sellout. It's the first time we've done our own sold-out show. So those shows bring 1,100 people into the village, and obviously the financial revenue that comes along with it. And we're very proud of that. The theater is on a roll in that regard. The other successful shows we've had this season, most notably probably Roseanne Cash, which sold over 900 tickets, and we're already planning another show. She wants to come back. So we've got a lot going on in that regard. In the fall, I'm sorry to see Mr. Crean wasn't here, because I believe he was one of the people that suggested Martin Sexton to us a long time ago, and we did book it, and tickets are on sale for Martin Sexton in the fall in November. And then we're going to have Arlo Guthrie right before Thanksgiving as well.
Joe Keys.
And yes, he did promise to play Alice's Restaurant, so that's worth the price of the ticket right there. Now, as far as programming, part of what we have to do before we get fill in the blank, someone give me a name, whatever it is, it's not as easy as just book the show, because we have to pay for the performer before we can even collect our ticket money. We can't spend that ticket money until the curtain goes up, because if something happened and the show was canceled at the very last minute, we'd have to refund all that money. So that money has to stay in the bank. And right now we have well over $100,000 out that we've paid in deposits to performers that are coming to the theater. So fundraising and programming are very much tied together. But knowing that there are a lot of people that have a lot of opinions on what we should do, we are starting up this committee, and we are bringing in people from the community to be a part of it. And what Barbara said about being a little bit different than the other committees is we have specific events that we want to do, and we're putting subcommittees together just for that event. One of our trademarks, one of our brands is the Patchogue Folk Festival. Our next one will be our 5th, and we have put together a subcommittee of folkies to put together the billing for that. We're already working on that. And we've talked about possibly a jazz festival, a blues festival, a bluegrass festival. And as the committee chair, I don't know enough about all of these genres. So as much of a music fanatic as I am, I still know enough when to ask for help. And that's the whole idea. But the main thing is going to be to look at those big shows. And everyone says big shows, and you know, what is a big show? Well, we define a big show as where the artist fee all by itself is $75,000 or more. And that's a big ticket. And someone suggested, we've had all kinds of suggestions. I don't want to name names because I'm very superstitious. Every time I talk about something we're working on, it falls through. But it is $2.5 million to get the Rolling Stones. We did look into that. It's a little bit above our budget, and
How much over?
but you know, part of what we do, our mission has the word affordable in it, and it has the word variety in it. And so for a lot of people, we don't do enough of that particular variety of music or comedy or whatever performance it is. But unlike a lot of other venues on Long Island, we're not a single genre venue. We do variety, a wide variety of performing arts for a broad-ranging audience at affordable prices is our mission. And so that's what we're going to continue to do. So we'll probably have a little bit of something for everybody. But we are looking at some big acts, and assuming the funding comes through, if we have a $75,000 show, if we sign that contract now, for 18 months from now, that contract goes out with a check for $37,000. We have to have that money in the bank. Before that performer gets on stage, that performer's paid the rest of that. And so it's the chicken and the egg, but a lot of good things are happening in that regard, and we're bringing a lot of people involved. And I want every one of your wish lists, whenever you can get it to me, because we'll look into everything, because we are all about input. So any questions, let us know.
The goal of the theater has always been to put people on Main Street, and that's really what it's done. And I think that when you talk about programming, one of the neatest programs that I go to every year is the South Ocean Avenue movie up ceremony. It really is. Again, one of those things, sort of like Memorial Day. If you see it, it's worth just walking into the theater and watching the parents and the grandparents and the kids. It is just a neat thing to do. So when you talk about the value is just the Bacon Brothers. It really is a community side of it.
Just in case any of you are interested in how much the Rolling Stones did want, 2.75 million. So, a little over our budget.
We're working on the fundraiser.
That 1,100 seat tour thing.
The next person I'd like to have come up to the podium is John Cassess. He is the chairperson of the Capital Projects Committee, and he will give you some information about what his charge is. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, John.
First, just to say it's an honor to be part of the theater project, to be on that board, and also to thank you for all of the good work that's going on in Patchogue. My wife and family and I have been in Patchogue. We've had our home in Patchogue for almost 50 years now, and what's going on in Patchogue now is kind of the greatest comeback since Lazarus, I think. I mean, it's really wonderful, you know, and every place that I go and talk to people, they know about Patchogue and want to come here, so thank you very much. I'll kind of give you a 30,000-foot view of what our committee does. It's the Capital Projects Committee, but I'm happy to answer any questions. We can drill down into ground level if you want, whatever you'd like. The Capital Projects Committee is one of 4 committees, as Barbara said, that it comes from the strategic plan, and we have those 4 committees, and a board member is chair of each of those committees, so I chair the Capital Projects Committee. Its purpose is to provide recommendations and advice to the board regarding the physical condition, primarily of the interior of the theater. And that's its purpose, and all of the people on the committee understand that that's what we're there to do. We do not have a budget, and again, we are not requesting a budget. We don't work on a budget. We want to give advice based on each committee member's general expertise, either with construction or restoration or building in general. So the committee members were chosen very carefully for their particular expertise. There are 6 volunteers, including myself, that make up that committee. In a moment I'll mention their names because I'd like publicly for them to at least be acknowledged. We did a site review, the committee did site review several weeks ago, almost a month ago now, so that we came to the theater on a Saturday, spent several hours going through and moved through from the lobby, right from the front doors of the lobby through down into the basement, back into the main theater, onto the stage, back behind all of the corners and up again to take a look at the roof. So we really did kind of a thorough review of the theater, and it was a pictorial review. We took pictures as we went along and created a slideshow for the benefit of the board members. I don't think that you all have seen that, but if you care to see it, or and I don't know if you've gotten a copy of the written report, but if you care to have any of that, we'd be happy to provide that. Have you by any chance received that?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we'd be happy to get that to you. The pictures, you know, as I say, 1,000 words. So we benefited by reviewing those pictures and talking about them at the last board meeting. It was enlightening to all of us, I think. I would like to, again, mention the members of the committee. By name, they are Lloyd Arasate, Michael Ierardi, Mary Nolte, Ben Vitale, and Bud Mazur. Each has some particular expertise, either relative, as I said before, to construction or restoration. For example, Michael Ierardi is a restoration expert and does hobby work in that field. All have some kind of affiliation with theater or theaters, physical plant of theaters. So they were nice enough to come forward when I asked if they would be on that committee, and it was really their view of what needed to be done. What came out of our site review can be categorized in 3 areas. One is repair, items that need repair, items that need replacement, and items that need renovation. So as we looked at all of those items, anything from carpet and seats and you know, the wall hangings, the tapestries, a great deal of discussion about the wood paneling, which has been treated several times and has a special process to make it fire retardant, which also dulls the finish of that beautiful, beautiful mahogany. So we had a lot of conversation about all of those things. But we all, this is unanimous feeling that until something is done about the roof, which has leaks and which causes water to come in and create mold and destroy or deteriorate some of the wood, some of the plaster, and some of the other artifacts that are around the theater. So that roof becomes a priority for discussion at the board, and I know you've talked a great deal about it. And of course, the carpeting and seats were next. Those are great big projects. Some of the opinion of the committee was that a great deal of the work that needs to be done or could be done does not cost a great deal of money, wouldn't cost a great deal of money. It's painting, repair of certain areas that would take a little wooden paneling, that kind of thing. There was some discussion about the bar and the size of it, and there was a great deal of discussion on the board about the reconstruction of that bar area such that it is serviceable, so that the people who do want to have something to drink, have a beverage, can get to the bar, get to their seats quickly, and that the turnover at the bar would be greater, and of course would bring revenue in a way that it doesn't now. So that's kind of a 30,000-foot view of what our committee has done so far. We stand ready to help each of the committee members feel it's, they are honored to be on the committee and have said that to me, and to have a chance to be part of something very important, and I feel that way, of course, as well. But again, if there are any questions, or if you'd like any written reports, or that pictorial report, be happy to provide that. We'll get that to you sometime. Any questions?
I think just a comment, I know Jack, you had met on the roof.
Yeah. We are with Trustee Keys, I guess last week, we had a meeting to start the estimates for the roof.
No, we met with the architect.
Yeah.
And we went over very thoroughly what we're looking to put up there, what they suggested, what they recommended.
I'm sorry, I don't recall the type of roof, but
Well, they were talking about not a steel, but like aluminum. I forget exactly what you call it as well. But it's, they feel it's gonna be probably what would suit us best. Obviously, once the bids go out, we see what kind of money people are looking for.
yeah, and also what we asked the architect to do is to keep the historical nature of the building in mind when estimating the roof, and not to just go with a black shingle roof.
We gave them a pretty thorough list back then.
Yeah, we gave them a very thorough list of what we wanted to do. We wanted various things to keep in mind the people who are going to be living in New Village, that
They'll be able to see the roof.
doesn't,
Yes.
because they'll be able to see it.
Yes.
So that the roof has some sort of aesthetic value, and it doesn't reflect in the later parts of the day,
Yeah.
causing a reflection coming into their building. Number of things like the gutter system, the snow stop system, and since we've had so many different problems with the roof over the last 10 years, a new way, because as you know, where the main roof meets the proscenium roof, there's problems with water leakage, and to solve that problem, and to create a venting system upstairs and an air motion system, so it doesn't get too hot in the summertime and too cold in the wintertime. So it's not just putting the roof up, but all the issues that come with that we're going to be investigating.
I think we're probably kind of targeted the fall.
Looks like October. So I've spoken to John at the theater to get the schedule together, and they can work around the theater schedule. So if there's an event that evening, they stop work at a certain time. But we really want to get it done before the winter.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's an enormous project. Everybody recognizes it as such. But it's wonderful to hear, and I'd be happy to pass that along to the committee.
And with that, it's not just the top of the roof. We're going to be inside, and if there's any damage that was caused by rain, things like that, that's all going to be repaired throughout this. Like there's at least one tile I know of up on the ceiling that's been damaged. That will be fixed too.
Yes, yes. Yeah, there are several tiles
Yeah.
that clearly are from water damage. That's great.
Yeah, that should be, within the next few weeks, we should get designs, and I asked them whatever designs that they have or any kind of plan that they have, that we meet with the theater board at one of your meetings to go over those plans with your board, just so you're in the loop on everything that's going on.
What we clearly understand is that those kinds of projects are our responsibility. It is our theater. own the seats that you're getting leaked on, you know? So it is about that. It's about, you know, the longevity and sustainability of the building itself. And, you know, as you know, we're looking very seriously within the next 3 years in terms of seats. I think we need to sit and talk about the size of the seat that your committee would recommend, and taking into light the numbers of seats. You know, if you go to a 20-seat or a 20, whatever those numbers are, you're obviously going to lose some seating. And we need to get some plans down on that. And actually, if your committee wanted to, they want to bring somebody in to begin to take a look at that and to be able to make some recommendations back to us. Like I said, it's not something that's going to happen within the next 2 years, because I'm looking at debt service that we're currently carrying, and how do we marry that to a $300,000 or $400,000 expenditure for seats without adding more burden to the taxpayer, but using those funds for when that retires itself. So it's kind of a balancing act. The roof gets done now. It gets done as soon as we get done, because that's something you can't wait on. And what I look at very quickly is that we don't really have a cloakroom. So you need a larger seat, because we also want to have larger people, but you also, in the wintertime, you have people coming in with heavy coats and things like that. You've got to make that as a tougher piece of this. So, and,
I'm sorry. Just back to the seats. Although we're looking at a 3-year window here for possibly getting started at, we have to deal with it now, because in another year, this theater's going to be scheduling for that time. And of course, we'd like to do we'd like to do this as quickly as possible, but I can assume that removing the seats, the old seats, and disposing of them or wherever they're going to go. Once that happens, we're going to rip up the carpet. And once we rip up the carpet, you know, we all know that there's some issues with the flooring. So there's repairs to the floors that has to be made. And then put in a new floor or parts of new floor. So it could be an extended period of time that the theater is out of commission. Unlike with the roof, where they can work around it, seats, once they start the process, they have to finish before you can bring any people in.
You both to sit down.
So we do need to start looking at that probably the next year or so, to say, well, you know, at this point in time, we're gonna, you know, have to install the new seats.
but if your committee, and I would appreciate it, would really begin to look seriously at it in terms of the kinds of layout, the ADA requirements, right, for disabilities act, their requirements in terms of number of spaces and seats that we need to do, and how we can configure it to get the most amount of seats, but to get it, begin to take a look at seats in the larger sizing. So at that point that we decide to do it, we're locked and loaded, then we go out to bid, we can start putting that together.
Yeah, sure, I'll talk with the committee about that, and, you know, pass all of this along to them, and I'm thrilled to hear it, as I am. I just, the article, just recently really kind of spelled it out, and kind of gave, again, a 30,000-foot view of, even more detail about what is planned and, what is hoped for, but with the record of accomplishment, I'm sure everything will get done, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
One other thing, John, if Joe Keys and I can meet with you at some point in time, because a lot of the things that I saw on your list, I think our highway department men can participate in any repairs or things that need to get done. And, you know, maybe we can look at those things that we can start to do that, you know, don't cost a lot of money that you want to do. I know there's some changes to the bathrooms and
Yes.
and things like that
Yes.
that we can look into.
Yes.
So, you know, we can sit down in the near future.
At your convenience, may I email you then?
Sure,
And
yeah.
you let me know when
Yeah,
it
I'll
is?
get it to you, Joe, and we can look at that.
Sure, yeah, that's great.
You held up an article, I want to thank Linda Luzzi for putting that article in the Advance last week, and really keeps people informed. The Advance has been a great component of the theater, and they continue to appreciate it, Linda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John. Our last committee report will be for the gala, and Janine Egan is a co-chair on that committee, and she's going to tell you a little like to do with our annual gala. Nick? Hello. So I'm representing the gala committee, and we're a committee of approximately 7 to 10 people who will be charged with planning an annual event representing the theater. So what we've decided to do with our yearly event is, rather than going to a big catering hall and putting on really impractical shoes, we want to make sure that we are getting people into the theater and really tying this event to the community. So the theater has been a big part of Patchogue's community for a long time, and we want to make sure that each year the event represents us. So the idea will be to use some of the folks from our other committees, including the finance committee, and raise money, but also raise awareness about the theater itself, and getting new feet into the theater, and making sure that people that aren't there all the time are getting there and have a new reason to be there. So this year, we're looking at fall time for the first annual, probably the second annual really, because about 3 years ago, we did the 10th anniversary, and we worked with one of the artists, and we had a backstage event. So a lot of people who had never seen the theater from the back, me being one of them, got to stand on the stage and look out, and it was a great event, and it was very successful. So that's what we're planning for the fall of this year, something very similar, where we'll be able to get people onto the stage who haven't been able to get that view. So do you have any questions for me?
Raise a lot of money.
That wasn't a question. Thanks.
That's a formal question.
I know you're anxious to get on with the meeting, but I would just like to close with these quick comments. Our goal for this year is to increase the number of people that came through the theater. This year was 140,000 people that came to see the shows on Main Street. We had 216 nights that theater was in use. Of those 216 nights, 195 of them were actual performances. Others are rehearsals and that sort of thing. And our goal is to put on 4 big shows, as everybody has been asking for us. We want the big names. Well, we kind of consider Kevin Bacon as one of the big names, so we have 3 more to come up with for the Patchogue Theater this year. And I think that the enthusiasm that's been going around regarding the theater, certainly with the board members, that this is something that can be achieved, but I think what brought this to a head was the fact that we did have this time together as a board to put together this strategic plan. And without the support of all of you that are sitting there, giving us the funds to be able to do that, and supporting us throughout with things that we need for the theater, this could not have happened. So we thank you from the bottom of our heart, because we love the theater, and we hope that you get that same feeling when you start to see things going on. We thank you for the money you provided, for the patience that you've had with us over the years to get it to the point that it is now. But we're going to show you we're going to go ahead further, and thank you all again for taking the time to hear what's going on
Well, thank you very
at the
much.
theater.
You know,
Thank you.
we believe that theater is critical to the sustainability of our downtown. It is, it's not just the people it puts on the street, it's the sense that it gives the community that we're different than most other ones, that we have something. We have this asset, this jewel, this thing that draws people in. 140,000 people, is a lot of people. You know, there aren't 140,000 restaurant seats in this village. You know,
Yeah.
and it really becomes people out of that 140,000. Jack, what would you say?
Third. Every time I ask, at least a third of the audience raises their hand and says they had dinner, or they stopped for a drink, or they intend to go out after the show.
And I bet you,
It's pretty impressive.
and I bet you half of them had never been to Patchogue before. Either. So it brings in new people, it supports the downtown, and it gives us a bit of cachet that most other communities don't have. So we really appreciate your hard work. I know it's at times frustrating and aggravating,
That's right, that's what we say, you know, you want that, you wanna know how much they cost? Really? And a lot of people don't understand what Chris explained earlier about how much money that you have to put out. If we have 4 big shows at say $100,000 a show, we have to put out $200,000 a year in advance, and it just sits there until they come to fulfillment. So it's more than just make a phone call and get that big act. But thank you all again for your
Appreciate your
support
time tonight.
and for inviting us to see
Before
it.
we let them escape, I think we should all give them a round of applause.
Oh, thank
This
you.
is a fantastic. And you should circulate it as widely as it's possible to circulate. The mission statement is super.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just before we leave this, I'll be brief, but I just want to say something and thank the board for all the work that they do. About 8 years ago, Paul, I think you could agree that the strategic plan of the theater was, how can we get in more debt? That's pretty accurate, don't you think? And there were a lot of issues, especially financial issues in the theater. At one point in time, we probably didn't think we'd ever get out of. And thanks to the work of the theater board, the past theater board members, anybody who's come on board, of course, and the administration at the theater, John and Clara, they've done a great job getting us financially stable, because at that point in time, those years ago, the stability of the theater was teetering. And Chris, you were there, so you know what was going on. Losing, shows were just losing money. And it seemed to be the course that they were taking. Have a show lose money, no big deal. The promoters were making money, everybody was making money, and the theater was losing money. So thanks to the mayor, and we convinced the theater to get out of debt first before the village even got involved as far as giving them money and supporting them. And within 5 years, I think it was, the theater was out of debt, and that was due to very, very fiscally responsible measures by the board, the administration, and you know, as the village is the #1 benefactor of the theater, and we all talk about raising money, the Patchogue Village taxpayer is the #1 benefactor of the theater. And I think that the way you guys have been running the shows and running the operation of the theater is just a testament to the hard work that you do, because the theater business is not an easy business. And if you know about theaters as we do, very few of them survive because of the economics that Barbara was talking about. But I think ours survives even more because the people who are involved in the theater are all Patchogue people, and they care a great deal about not only the theater, but how it affects the village of Patchogue. And Barbara at the helm, how many years now, Barbara, have you been?
This is 8 years.
8 years.
It seems like forever.
Yeah, for the past 8 years, the theater has gone from a place where you'd walk in there for a big show and there'd be 150 people in the audience, to shows like the Bacon Brothers, Lee Rice, and all the different partnerships that the theater has made with people like Mickey B and JVC Broadcasting and people like that who are confident to bring their shows to the theater because they know that they're coming to an organization that's run tip top. And thank you very much, and you guys make the village of Patchogue proud for the work you do. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving along at a fast and furious pace. Request approval for the village clerk to receive and collect 2013-2014 tax bill in the amount of $10,110,063.31. Yep, without penalty until July 1, 2013. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Request approval authorizing agreement with both contractors in the amount not to exceed $60,000 to move the Carnegie Library. Motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Request approval authorizing first payment to Wolf Contractors for the move of the Carnegie Library in an amount not to exceed $5,630. And this is just, we have, out of that, this comes out of that $60,000 we just approved, and this is for the demobilization and their startup costs out in Pennsylvania to come here.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Lori, what have you, you wanna go through this one here?
Yeah, sure. Just, I don't want to read,
Yeah.
oh, right?
Well, it's, no,
Oh,
we're
it's
sitting
in
here,
here.
yeah.
Okay, so, we're requesting approval to set a public hearing for July 8th to amend section 435-14.1 to require applicants in the D3 zone to provide parking when seeking to intensify their use, converting unhabitable space to habitable space, increasing the footprint or square footage of existing buildings, or increase their occupancy, subject to Suffolk County Planning Commission referral under New York GML 239M. Well, what this is about is we have recently had businesses in our D3 downtown zone who have been converting space that was not previously part of the habitable space of the building, whether it's the addition of an outdoor beer garden, or as an example, if an existing restaurant, this is just an example, would seek to convert their basement into catering space. This begins to create a burden on the parking in the D3 zone, and while we're asking them to provide parking, it's not in the sense that they would go out and buy a building and knock it down and create their own parking, which is not in harmony with the downtown concept, but rather we would seek to set up a fund where, based on the occupancy, additional occupancy they're seeking, there would be a set amount of dollars yet to be determined.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the concepts. There are a lot of concepts that we're going to envision, and I think the mayor's going to have a committee form to consider this. All this is doing is just setting the public hearing to a point. 435-14.1 is just a moratorium provision. Just provides for a moratorium for 180 days to allow the village board breathing space to consider what options it may have to offset parking pressures in the D3 business district.
Okay, so the additional discussion of this would be safe for the public hearing.
Correct. The public hearing is only on the consideration of the moratorium. And then during that 6-month period, the board will have the opportunity to consider certainly one of those, that as a proposal, and any other proposal the citizens and the government may propose to consider some of those, the pressures of D3.
Yeah, the parking obviously has been a tremendous discussion in the village, and we'll be hearing more about it tonight as we talk about parking meters and such. But this moratorium will allow us to give us some breathing space to take a look at what options we have. Because there are many places in the village that are looking to expand their businesses, some with very creative ways, and others are not so creative ways, and I think that we need to take a look at it. You know, because the town of East Hampton, they just finished up the same kind of a study, and putting a fee structure in place. So this is all about giving us some breathing room to take a look at it, so that by the time that 6 months brings us to about January 1st, and Tech Development will be finishing up a little later than that. So all of these things are starting to coordinate themselves together. So a motion to set that July 8th. To amend that motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Lori, congratulations.
What?
Motion to make Lori chairperson, whatever that may be. Billy co-chair, so they can sit and argue against each other. Thank you. Do we have Dennis here tonight? No.
Before we go on, we're going to seek a couple of representatives from the chamber
Yes.
to be on this committee, and we're going to seek a couple of representatives from the bid.
Yes, it'll be wide ranging. Chamber of Commerce?
That would be me.
That would be you? Oh, the young lady.
Good evening, everybody. June 2nd is the blessing of the fleet. Oh, I should say this is from President Jackie, but she couldn't be here, so I'm representing the chamber. And the Alive After 5 committee is rewriting the applications for the restaurants and bars to allow for the corrals as per the Village and Fifth Precinct request. The deadline for the original applications was May 11th. The change in the event has created a number of issues with regards to members and vendors who signed up for the event without the corrals, who have requested refunds and will not be participating. That's the report.
Without,
Yeah, I'm confused.
Well, originally, they weren't supposed to have corrals and certain vendors
Oh,
okay. Whatever.
but we're back.
wanted to
having corrals.
participate, but now we're gonna have the corrals, so certain vendors said we don't wanna be a part of it.
Okay.
Is it the same kind of corral?
It's the same corrals as last year, the cattle pens.
When was there a discussion of not having corrals? We
Well,
had last year,
it's
right?
something PD, they asked us to change, somewhat change. You were there for that.
Yeah,
right?
but the elimination of corrals was never an option. We always had
It's
corrals.
what was happening.
It
in
was
the
happening
site.
inside
Inside the corral, yeah.
So I don't wanna have any misconception out
No.
there of what that is. There's
Oh.
always last year we had them, the year before we had them, we've always
Right.
had corrals.
But we were.
What's happening inside
Yeah.
is different, by recommendation from the police department.
Right.
So what's happening inside?
It'll be pretty much the way it has been, of moving it to Thursday night, what I requested was the fact that we're moving it to Thursday night.
Mhm.
Leave it as it was and let's see whether there's a substantial change by changing the night, that it will be a little less onerous on them. And their concern was is that because it was a Friday night, people would start drinking at 5, and at 5 in the morning, they're still hanging around Main
Still
Street
drinking.
in some condition or another. Or sleeping in front of Lori's store, or throwing them from you.
Right, it's always, it goes back to the vomit issue.
I know. I have to bring it back around to it. But, so they asked, so I asked them, I said, listen, give us the opportunity to run it as we had before, with some modifications, some minor modifications. And then let's see whether the change in evening, the change in night, does what we're hoping it does, which is send people home at an earlier time, to keep the numbers.
Hoping they have to go to work the next day.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right,
that's the
thank you
chamber
very much.
report.
Deputy Mayor, you brief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There'll be no theater report tonight, because I think we already got a theater report. But you mentioned Dennis Smith, who's not here. I think we need to mention the work he did for the HIA
Oh, yes.
LI trade show on last Thursday at Suffolk Community College in Brentwood.
Yep.
You might want to speak a little, bit about it? Okay. I don't know if everybody's aware, but every year there's a HIA, which is Patchogue Industrial Agents Association, has a trade show at Suffolk Community College, and businesses, all kinds of corporations have booths at this trade show. And 2 years ago, Dennis Smith from BID and members of the chamber decided that this would be a good place for the Village of Patchogue to be. Well, I'll tell you, they were right. I was there on Thursday, and the amount of people who came to our booth, it was amazing how many people were in our booth. It was not a quiet moment. And everybody came in and they said, oh, you're Patchogue. We know so much about Patchogue. You have so many good things. I have this kind of business. And they would talk to Dennis and go over things that they were interested in bringing to the Village of Patchogue. And which I was kind of amazed that we were the only municipality to have a booth at this show. And Crystal and Mary were there, and they could probably vouch for that, how many people came to our booth and enthusiastic about the village. And, people looking at the posters and everything we had in there. And I must say that it was money well spent, and I look forward to doing it again last year. And thank you guys very much, Mary, Crystal, Dennis, who's not here, and the members of the chamber, and the BID, who really spent
Pete Rose
the.
before you. Pete Rose spent it before.
And Pete Rowe too, Pete Rowe was there, yeah. And it's a great place to be, and I'm sure that, today I got a call, which I have to give to you, Tom, somebody that I met and spoke to about some issues in the village, and I think we made a good contact with somebody. So thanks a lot, thanks to the BID, thanks to the chamber for staging that event. It was a great day for the village. right now, another thing that we're looking into the future, and I did actually speak with a number of people at this event who talked about parking meters, Jerry, and how successful they are in other areas of the island and the region. And tonight we have a presentation by Jerry Giosa from Level G Associates regarding the parking meter bids.
Good evening.
All right, sir.
Yeah, how are you? On May 16th, we received bids for the parking meters that have been under discussion for the last several months. And, the bids came in quite favorably. The estimate for the 22 multi-space meters was $341,000, or about $15,500 per meter. The bid came in at $235,000, which is under $11,000 per meter. So the bid came in very favorably. We had put a little fluff into the budget because it was really a sole source bid. We had already pre-screened the various meters that were available and decided on the Parkion meter, and that was put in the specifications. So sometimes when you have a sole source bid like that, the bidder feels he's in a position of strength and might overinflate his bid. Fortunately, he did not do that, and we got a very favorable bid. We also have the option, instead of purchasing at $235,000, to lease the machines for a period of 5 years at $4,299 per month. And then at the end of the 5-year term, we can purchase them for $1. Using these numbers, I reworked the pro forma we put together, and the numbers come out, as you would imagine, more favorably than they did before. The change is not material. Over a 10-year study period, the village with this with plugging in the new numbers from the bid, would realize an additional $120,000 over the previous estimate that I had presented to you. So that's where we are on the bid. The next step would be to meet with the vendor and to put together an implementation plan and a schedule. He has some go-live dates and some guarantees for delivering the machinery and installing them, and a go-live date. I've estimated that if the contract is awarded this evening or accepted this evening, and we inform the vendor by the end of this week, using his go-live date of 11 weeks from award date, the system would be ready to go online on August 16th, which is 17 days before our estimated go-live date of September 3rd, which is the day after Labor Day. So we're on track, we're on schedule, we're under budget, and that's where we are today.
Jerry, these are Main Street, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Main Street, South Ocean, and Church Street, correct?
Yes, we had an add alternate in the bid to add the 2 meters behind Plum's in that lot, and those meters came in at the same amount. So if we wanted to add those to our to the contract, we could do so.
22.
I spoke to your father.
Excuse me?
He's against it, doesn't want it behind his door.
What's that?
He doesn't want it in that little parking lot.
No, I know. He and I had a conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Just, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I just want, I for some reason thought the extra 2 were for the railroad. Are they included in the original 22?
The railroad are
In the
included in the 22,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
That's one thing, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to just let everybody know, that we're gonna go we're switching
Oh,
over
thank
the
goodness.
railroad
Yes.
to be compatible with the machines that we have. Jerry, just remind us, what's the estimated revenue from these on a yearly basis?
The estimated revenue is approximately $500,000 a year.
$500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And these parking meters, I know we had spoken about using high-tech kind of stuff.
Yes.
Just explain what these parking meters can do.
Well, each meter is going to be, is going to communicate as part of a network. So, for example, all the meters are networked, tied together, and can be viewed. The activity of each meter can be viewed from a central location here at Village Hall. Because the meters are networked, you can make transactions from any machine. So for example, if you paid at one machine and you have a space number attached to your transaction, you can extend your time from a separate machine and a different location. You could also potentially extend your time from a cell phone. You can have your machine send you a text message when your time is about to expire. So there are all sorts of available options and high technology options that come with this machine. And as part of the startup meeting, the vendor will explain all of the various technology options that we have available to us.
And they're solar powered, correct?
They are solar powered.
And wireless.
Correct.
So,
Is it a web-based program or a?
It's cell tower based, so they communicate through the existing network of cell phone towers in the area.
But in terms of web-based, in that being able to log into it from an off-site from, say, my home,
Right.
is that option there, or is it single source to a single computer?
Nope, absolutely. If you have the correct password code
Yeah,
to get in, the information is stored on the vendor's home computer, which is located in Morristown, New Jersey. So their server keeps and holds all the information. It's not done on site, so we're not responsible for maintaining the server and doing all the backup and everything else like that. The vendor provides that, and they charge a monthly fee for that.
Right.
But again, it's recaptured in the revenue of the technology.
Part of the lease cost, is that service included in that lease?
No, that's additional, but that service is included in the pro forma.
Okay.
For the net income. And again, the machines are estimated that they're gonna pay for themselves in approximately 8 months. It was previously 8.5 months, and with the new bid, it's 8 months. After that, everything is.
That's great.
just a few other things, Jeff. I know when we met with Treasurer Crossick and Henry Monty, we talked about the leasing of it as being the most economical and best way to do it. Are we still on board with that? What do you think?
Ron would have to make the call on that, because every village and town is different on how they like to handle it. But one of the advantages that leasing gives you is that at the end of the 5-year period, if you feel you want to move up to a new machine, or if you feel that the technology has gone so far beyond where you are with the current machine, I don't necessarily believe that, but it gives you the option to move on and make that step if you want it, without.
Are there handhelds involved in this in terms of what the meter officers have?
Yeah, I would recommend an upgrade in your enforcement technology. You can go from handheld tickets to PDA, where the enforcement officers actually will have the information on which spaces are paid for and which are not, right in their handheld computer.
Is that part of this bid, or is that?
No, that's absolutely part of this technology. Yeah.
That's the one thing I wanted to discuss, is the enforcement angle.
Yeah.
Where if there were regular meters at each space, and it was to put the coin in and all that stuff, we'd have to have an officer basically on staff constantly checking each meter and walking and checking the meters to make sure they're, people are paid up. But in this program, the officer has a laptop or a PDA or whatever it is, and when a space becomes expired, it turns red or beeps or whatever, so the officer can just go right to that spot and instead of having to spend all that time looking around for in certain periods. So it's much more efficient way to do it.
That's exactly the way it works, and in fact, that's exactly the screen that is displayed is a red space is displayed in red if it's expired and green if it's paid for. So if you look at a block side on PDA and it's just all green, there's no reason for an enforcement officer to go there because everything.
I think I asked this last time, but I remember the answer. Is there training involved? Will all officers be trained by someone?
Yes. Yes, there's a 2-day training period that's included in the bid. So we're going to have to kind of put together a committee on who's going to be administering the system, responsible for the machines and so forth, who will be participating in the training sessions. There's also a 2-year warranty on parts and service. So we extended the normal 1-year warranty an extra year, and that's included in the bid as well.
And as far as the funds inside the machine, it's a very simple operation, pulling the drawer out, bringing it to the bank, and they do we just hand them the box, they do the counting, and we just pop in an empty box in the machine. So the officer doesn't have to bring this money here, count the money, bring it to the bank. It's a pretty well cut and dry kind of thing, right?
Yeah, the internal controls of this system are superb because the machine actually knows how much money is in the box and will record that in a report and let you know every time the box is removed. It'll tell you exactly how much money is in. You put the empty box in, and you're ready to roll again.
And from what
It's a big advantage.
Yeah, from what I understand, that the kiosks that house these machines, they are covered and keep them out of the weather a little bit, that we could also sell advertising on those. Have you seen that happen?
You can sell advertising on the machines and on the backs of on the tape itself, on the printed paper itself.
Oh, yeah.
And what's that? We're working on that. I also understand that if somebody's shopping, say for instance in Blum's, and their meter's ready to expire, and they say to Mark, "Oh my gosh, I gotta go out and pay I've gotta put another 50 cents in the meter." Mark can say, "Wait a minute, you don't have to go put money in. What's your number?" And Blum's can pay for that.
Right on my phone.
Extra, on your phone or whatever. Is that correct?
That's correct. He would have to establish an account with a service called Varus. So he is now, in the system, in the Patchogue network, and he can.
I'm in the system already.
You want to, but for an
No, the
additional,
post office has my picture up.
for an additional 50 cents, his customer can stay in the store
Yeah.
and shop more, so they don't have to run out to the car. A restaurant can do that, Colony Shop can do that. So that's part of the system also, correct?
That's correct. If the establishment is open past 6 p.m. because the charges are not gonna begin until 6 p.m.
Yeah. And that 6 p.m. time, we're still looking at how we're gonna arrange all that stuff. And, we're still looking at what times and whether on Main Street, and, a lot of things.
And on that note, what I'd really like to do is talk about, Jack, for you to kind of take a look at it and set up a part to discuss those issues from the perspective of cost, to hours, to resident issues and so forth. Maybe work out something, Tom's on the BID again, maybe getting a couple members of the BID.
Chamber.
3 or 4 members from the chamber, and then even some resident members to sit down and now to lay out what the plan should be.
Because I've had comments from store owners about Main Street, and that, they'd like to have the meters run all day on Main Street because of the issue of people parking there all day. And those are the premium positions. And, traditionally, Patchogue always had meters on Main Street, and, I think that we should really look at that all-day meter parking on Main Street. And, there's enough free parking behind the stores that I don't think it would be an inconvenience to people.
It's a very important step because the next step for you really is regulatory, where you have to establish an ordinance that establishes what the rules and regulations are, so that when summonses are issued, there is an ordinance that is referred to that gives the ticket the teeth that it needs. So that really is the next step, is really regulatory. You establish the
And again, as I always say, our goal is not to give people tickets.
That's the goal of any parking system.
The last thing we want to do is give a customer who's coming to Barnes or the Colony Shop a ticket for an expired parking space. So we hope that when these meters come into place, that people who use them pay attention and pay attention to their time.
We would much prefer that the customers put a quarter in the meter than be at the meter in violation. And that's with any parking system, that should be the goal.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Question? We're gonna earmark the parking revenue, right?
Well, that's something we'll discuss.
Okay.
Yep. It'll have a specific use.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
and again, the revenue for the parking, as you said, Paul, will be, we'd like to get that to pay for more parking, because that's what we need.
Again, that is typically the best use, is to recycle it back in to improve the parking system and the parking environment.
Yeah, and a lot of that is not only building more parking spaces, but to enhance the security in parking lots by more lighting, those kind of things, better lighting in the alleyways to bring people from the parking lots to the street, beautification, surveillance cameras, and
Bathrooms.
all those kind of issues that will make people feel safer in our parking lots. And as I've read a million times in all these parking studies and in reading things about parking, free parking is not free. And that's a big thing that everybody says, it's not free.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna, and I think that by putting parking meters in, I think we're gonna be able to do all those enhancements and solve whatever issues we have as far as parking goes here in the village.
I think one of the tremendous advantages that you guys have, and that this installation has, is that the vast majority of the public spaces in the CBD are gonna remain free. While 20 to 25% are gonna be metered, you're still gonna have close to 75%, or 75 to 80% that are free.
Yeah, so what it does is it creates a situation where, people are walking more on our main street, where they're not just so tempted to park exactly where they want to be. If they don't want to pay for parking, they're gonna have to park behind Terry Street. If they want to go to, say, J&R Steakhouse, they'll park behind Terry Street, walk through the alley, and walk past the Colony Shop, and walk past Blum's, and all the things like that. So put more people on Main Street, they've got to walk a little bit to where they need to go. I think it's a good thing for health, too.
Right. And it's, hearing the theater presentation, which was fantastic, by the way, the seats in the front are more expensive than the ones in the back.
And they always go first, right, Chris? You it might be a $50 ticket, 20, 30 rows up front it's $75, $80, $90, and when they go on sale, those are the ones that go first. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank
Thank you.
Motion to approve to award the parking meter bid to Devo and Associates in an amount not to exceed $256,440. Motion.
In favor? So carried. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Request approved to set a public hearing, oh, no, that's you, sorry. Request approved to create a fire zone for the north and south sides of Riverview Court at the request of the senior building inspector pursuant to section 205-35 of the village code. Paul, do you want to?
Riverview is the street that goes down towards Reese's Boatyard. right now it's very narrow, and if there is any parking on the side of it, and there is a need for you, emergency service person, it will, can make it down a little. It's a safety issue. Motion second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Request approval for the Vanguard Hose Company to have live amplified music at Fireman's Park on June 9th from 1 to 9 p.m. What is that for? Is it
Is that about
That's
all?
the problem.
Oh, the pot of gold, okay. Now, do we have to,
Yeah, motion second.
anything with alcohol or?
No.
Fire, they're
Most
not
boys
gonna do
don't
that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a motion?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Trustee Keys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Relatively brief tonight. I understand that the playground, the pirate ship is on its way, Billy, right? Supposed to be here this weekend?
Yeah, it's in Ohio right now.
It should
You
be
can sell it for.
docking here in, by the end of the week, I think. So at any rate, the crew will be spending a lot of time down there this week. In fact, I was down with Joe this morning, and they know that's kind of a priority, so they'll be on that all week. About a year ago, we we tried these Fabco filters, and I know you've heard me talk about them a few times on catch basins. In fact, Linda, I'm going to be calling you for follow-up to that. But at any rate, we had collected from 4 catch basins. We did like a little test collect on the 4 basins up on, I think it was Roe Boulevard. Estimated that those 4 basins alone prevented 1 ton of sediment from entering the lake. 1 ton of just those 4 filters. So we currently have a dozen of those filters in place. I think we paid for 6, they gave us 6, and we managed to secure another 100 from the county. So we're well stocked with them, and we'll be vigorously installing this kind of keeping the river, the lakes, and everything as clean as we can. By the end of this week, we intend to start paving Waterworks, Bianca, Union, and Lake Streets, as well as the driveway off on 380 Bay Avenue. One other note that's not really related to us, but I've been getting some calls and complaints from some very close people about the rough ride over the West Avenue Railroad crossing. And while I suggested that those people were probably exceeding the speed limit, that's why they felt the rough ride. I did talk with the chief engineer of the railroad. He called me just to fill out the house, actually. So they're planning to pave that next week, and no later than 2 weeks weather permitting. As far as the CDA report, I don't know if you got a chance to complete the walkway. It is just about complete, just some white stanchions in the back that have to be done, but it's a big difference and it looks really good. I'm requesting approval tonight, Mr. Mayor, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Johnson Electric for traffic signal maintenance, $800 per month. We've been working with them for years. Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Requesting approval for the Garden Club to hang a banner on Main Street promoting the 13th annual gardening tour on July 6th and to use the community garden for ticket sales. Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Just real quick on the Garden Club. The other day I was on the 5th floor in the art space, looking out that way. I said to Lord, you gotta get up on the roof and take a picture. It is. When you look from the church, across to the garden, across to Copper Beach, with the Egan's office in the middle. Of course, I'll have to blur that out. But what I'd really like to do is to have a photograph taken, because it really is, it's stunning when you get up top.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You get a nice bright day. It really is pretty neat. They do a beautiful job. Miss Miller, I was over there the other day, and she was moving a Buick size pile of bolts and whatever else from one side to the other.
Requesting approval tonight to hire Ed Corp and Sons to replace the catch basin on the south side of Crescent Street in an amount not to exceed $7,500 to be paid from key money. The basin just collapsed. It's been around a while. Motion.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Requesting approval to hire Ed Corp and Sons to replace a 12-foot drainage pipe on Crescent Street in an amount not to exceed $6,832.66. Key money. Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Requesting approval to hire Kevin Lowry as the permanent swingman for DPW effective June 1st. Kevin's currently a sanitation laborer. This would be sort of a step up. I think there's a dollar more now. There's a package, a note I think in your package, I believe.
What's a swing man?
He will go back and forth between.
He can work as a highwayman when the show's a highwayman or one of
He
the
doesn't like swing off the truck.
He does, he can if he wants, I guess. We don't really do that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's all I have, thank you.
Ready?
Trustee Keys, I just wanted to congratulate you on the opening of Men's.com as promised.
Thank you,
Looks
man, yes,
fabulous.
the guys worked hard, we did get open by Memorial Day.
Came home vacation and first day I looked at it.
And there was,
Great job.
people got to use it for the Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, fellow trustees, Brian, public. Just a couple of quick things. Request approval to set a public hearing to amend section 435-40 of the village code to create a good neighbor fence policy. Right now, our fence policy does not require you to put the nice side of a stockade fence facing your neighbor. So you can put the posts facing your neighbor. And recently, somebody put the posts in an offensive manner. So we're gonna have a public hearing to change that code. Date for that?
June 10th?
This should not be a very controversial meeting.
Oh, you better.
By the way, it doesn't affect fences that are already in place, only new fences. So it won't be very controversial. It's too late. June 10th.
June 10th, yes. Just a second.
Second. Aye. Okay, sorry. Request approval to set a public hearing to amend section 390-6A of Village Code to require persons providing taxi cab services to maintain adequate bathroom facilities for drivers.
We're just getting complaints.
The various taxi companies,
They don't let their own drivers in the room.
they lost their facilities
Oh, yeah.
and they gotta get new
A
ones.
lot of them don't let their own drivers in their own buildings. Yeah, so-
So, that's a public hearing just to require that. Date?
Well, second,
June 10th again?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Resolution to revoke the non-conforming use by operation of law from 49 Maple Avenue. The property at 49 Maple Avenue has been abandoned for, it had, by the way, it's on the books as a two-unit building. Has been since 1976, I think. And the building has been vacant for 2 years, it's been vandalized, vagrants have been living in it, it's a real nuisance. The homeowner, the landowner is not responsive. So one of the things that we can do is we can revoke their right to have two families in that building, and that's an action we'd like to take. That's in the form of a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Trustee Devlin. I mean, trustee, yeah, trustee
Yeah.
Devlin.
Okay, request approval to set a public hearing to amend sections 435-65B, 435-82A, 3B, 435A, 3D of Village Code to increase the minimum notice for public hearings before the planning and zoning boards.
You go from what, 5 to 10 years? Right. Within a proposal to go from
From
5
5 to 10 days.
to 10 days.
Want to do that June 10th as well?
Yep. Motion second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
That's all I have to say.
Yep, Billy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, trustees, Patty, and guests. Request approval to hire RFC to raise the outfield fence at Shorefront Park ball field. The cost not to exceed $15,000. This is because of foul balls along the third baseline, crossing Smith Street and hitting the residences across the street.
Does that happen actually to resident?
Residents.
Residents.
Oh, I think so.
Residents.
I thought you said resident.
Oh, no. No, it should have, but it didn't. This is an ongoing problem we have, especially with the new backs that these guys have been using. And, well, I'm totally not in favor of doing it this way. I was overruled. So we'll try this first.
And what is this, which field? That left field?
What's that?
How high you go with this thing?
It's another 10 feet.
I remember as a kid, that, remember that? It was like, we We should paint a green and call it Fenway Park.
Right. Oh,
I
really?
used to bang off it all the time. This
Oh.
is around the outfield in that corner.
In that corner,
It
there
was
was
the third baseline.
There was a
Yeah.
couple guys who could bang it over that.
Yeah.
the one species that
Yeah.
we like that on a regular basis. We're all made.
It was the
Yeah.
Parks Garage.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, well, this
30
is
feet up.
alongside Smith Street, so,
Help out all the time.
right.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to see how that
Trustee
works.
Hill, you have an alternative to the higher fence?
Well, and then,
Netting.
because I don't think that the 10 feet is gonna do it,
No.
but we'll see. This is something that,
Would the netting be cheaper?
well, yes, but the netting also requires a tremendous amount of maintenance, which is not cheap. So, we'll see how this goes. It's a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Request approval for Grace Gospel Church to use the Ryder Avenue Complex for their annual softball camp from August 12th to 16th, from 9 a.m. to noon.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, finally request approval to hire the summer recreation staff. See attached.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Before you go on, there's one other item. One of the issues that we've been running into is that many times people do things on their properties not realizing they need a building permit for that. Whether it be a deck, a shed, things that we, I bet you if you look at probably, if there are 400 decks in the village of Patchogue, I bet you 80% of them will build without permits. People just catch you lumber, you build it, you think the code, you build it right, and then 15 years later, you go to sell your house, we come to do an inspection, and lo and behold, you have a building permit, you're supposed to have a building permit to do it. And probably out of those 80% of those decks that were built that way, probably 90% of them were built properly, and yet 10% that might have been built shabbily. And what we've always done, and the way the code reads, it's a $250 fee for your building permit. The way the code reads, it's, for a building permit, for a building without a permit is currently double the value of the permit for $1,000, which is ever greater. So some poor guy who built a 8x10 deck in his backyard now he's trying to sell his house, now gets a fine of $1,250 for building something that probably, because I'm lucky I took mine down, so if it was on my house, I'd have to do the same thing, because I'm one of those guys. And I bet you if people who own homes, they can't have he did it. But mine's gone down, so it's no longer illegal. But my point is that I think we need to do what you just said, public hearing, to change that section of the law.
Right. To make it compatible with the penalty provision under 1.1, we go to the village prosecutor.
So in other words, if you do it, yeah, you gotta pay the $250, but you don't have to pay $1,000. Let the prosecutor determine. And again, this isn't talking about the guy that puts an extension on back in his house. It's 2 bedrooms in a, basement. It's about the guy with a family that builds a shed, builds something that,
Puts a new door in his house,
yeah,
puts a new window in, takes a window out.
yeah.
You need a building permit?
I don't know about taking one out, but for all the others.
But some of that stuff, it's just the way the code reads. But I'd like to set a public hearing, we can do this on the 10th also, just run through these things, to, what would be to modify section 435-58B?
Correct.
And, to take, to, how do you want to phrase that?
Just to amend, to make it commensurate with the penalties of under 1.1.
Okay. Motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Anything else from the board?
I just have one other thing. Today in the mail, most of you should have received the new recreation building.
Well done, Billy, very, very well done.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant.
It's also available online, but call the girls at 380 Bay 4302, 475-4302, for any questions you have, and it should be a great summer.
Now, on the cover of that bill, is that the new required women's bathing suits?
No, the back cover. Yeah,
Back cover.
yeah, that's something that, a proposal we have from, no, that's mascot doc. We weren't able to put that on the back cover, but that's where it was.
Isn't it got that?
Yeah.
No, I went through the brochure, 712 typing and spelling errors. No, we're very well done. Tell Maria that, you know, you can see the work of the time. Okay, public to be heard. Oh, one other thing, Joe, you gotta speak to Joe. He needs to put up a no parking sign from here to corner in front of Hot Tron. They put them, but they're so far apart.
No parking here at the corner?
Yeah, that section where there's supposed to be no parking. Well, you put up a sign here,
Yeah, I
you
know
put up a
what
sign
you're
here. So once the first car parked, nobody else would see the other sign, so we need one more someplace in the middle of that.
Siegel from Blums, guy owns the property on Oak Street and Ocean,
Yeah.
didn't have a fence up, now he does. That's a fire hazard. He doesn't get enough room for a fire truck to get in. And that back,
You mean in the, down the driveway?
yeah, he put a fence right down and past the building. Which we used to have their building, it's past it, it's a driveway like this. You can't get a fire truck in there.
Could you ask people to take a look at it?
I don't think that's, I don't think it's all his property.
The property at Oak and South Ocean,
The empty one.
I North Ocean.
Oh, the Oak and North Ocean.
Yeah, yeah.
The vacant, okay.
Yeah, and I don't think we should pave Lake Street yet. What about all those things that come
No,
behind
not
it?
Lake.
Not Lake Street, Lake
Right.
Court.
Oh, Lake, okay, all right, all right.
That's
I think
it,
it's Lake
Lake
Street.
Quarter,
All right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, they're gonna pay that for us. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Good evening. One, two, three things. Two things I want to say, actually very positive. I saw a copy of the minutes. I see that the public portion has been amended, so the comments are not word for word, but they're more reflective of what people are saying. I think that's a good step forward. I also appreciate the resolution about giving more notice for the zoning and planning board. I spoke about this the last time, and I think it's necessary, and these people are getting a bit more, but that's better than what they presently have. 1, 2, 3, off-key tiki bar. You know, not at 11:01, but at 5:35 yesterday, I had to call code enforcement, and the code enforcement officer arrived 20 minutes, and just playing this out for actual call and response. The purpose of my call was, Knoxon Street is being used for parking. As far as I know, this is something that, as I recall, you said that Mr. Bremer swore a blood oath in front of the judge. This is not to occur. And yet it has, and actually it's been going on for a while. I just happened to call that day because it had it. Am I gonna have to call every night? Is that what's gonna happen?
If you continue to do it, absolutely. I placed a call to his lawyer today because my first call on my return from everybody's holiday from Memorial Day on Tuesday at 9 o'clock was to Chief Building Inspector Saris to find out what happened this weekend over there. He has not erected the fence that he needs to put in along that Knoxon Street.
Right.
So that, what I would have presumed in good faith would have been some kind of traffic control as a substitute,
Right.
which didn't exist. So I can tell you that the board and the mayor were unhappy at the minimum on his good faith in getting that done. So, I placed a call to the attorney. I had not gotten a call back as of close of business today. But, it is a requirement of Judge Asher's order that be stopped. He did request, obviously, he had a site visit where we're gonna have the fence put, he's gonna install a fence with the gate only for the minimal valet access to the other side, but no traffic up and down Knoxville Street, according to the judge's order. We intend that to be enforced, and I would think that the Supreme Court would want nothing less, because it was, as you read, very, very clear.
Correct. Now, Mr. Bremer, I understand my called the Great Wall of Knoxon apparently has plans to build a larger than 6-foot fence.
I don't think it was more than 6 feet. I think it was to code because there was no, he didn't take a permit out, there was no mention of having a permit, so it's not gonna be a fence, it's gonna be larger than that.
No more than 6 feet. We're not gonna have tapestries that are gonna go up to the sky, like the netting for the baseball park.
No, I wouldn't anticipate that.
We wouldn't anticipate that.
That wasn't contemplated.
All right. And just to point about it last night, so what caught my eye last night was the valet guys were breaking the traffic over to Knoxon Street. So, I mean, there's an implication between the business owner and that activity, which you know is prohibited. On a request to you, Trustee Krieger, when I spoke with the dispatcher that May, he actually tried to divert me from further action. You know, I explained to him what he wanted me to do was to not do anything and go see Peter Sarich on the next business day. You know, I did explain to him that that's not what I really wanted done, and he relented, and the code enforcement officer came. But if I'm gonna have the burden of calling, I need to have a dispatcher that's not gonna try to put me off as well.
Who was the dispatcher?
Dispatcher number 7. Thank you very much.
Dennis?
Good evening, Board. Dennis Ross, 32 West Main Street. Is there any plans to restripe the church lot prior to this implementing the parking system? The lot space, the parking stalls, so to speak, are considerably uneven for size-wise. The lines don't, I mean, is that part of it at all?
That would be us.
That would be us. We'll take a look at that, because we're gonna have a number of spaces. You know,
Yeah,
what
but
the lines are.
is the number of spaces part of their bid, or?
No, it's not, that's
Oh.
us, that's our responsibility. We haven't told the superintendent of highways yet, but Joe Keys will.
There was a question that was asked by the board to the gentleman who was proposing the bid, and I wish he had stayed. You asked, someone on the board had asked about the handheld units, and he said, yes, so most definitely they're available. But the question was, are they included? And that was very well based in his answer.
No, the handheld units are just laptops or things
No,
like
for the
that.
enforcement part of it.
That's what I mean,
He
yes.
said they are available, and the question was asked, are they included?
Oh, that,
And that was,
I think what you're talking about is the automated ticket.
yes. However,
Those are not included in the bid, those would be something extra.
okay,
I mean, that would be beyond our normal paper ticket, so that's like an upgrade function.
okay, because I just noticed the way he turned the
Yeah.
question, I didn't understand that.
And that's one of the reasons that, you know, the bid came in at 235, and we're,
Yeah, he left one on the table.
not to exceed 256.
Yeah, he left
So
one,
we're
so,
asking for another $21,000 and put additional things that we'll be adding to
yeah,
it.
so that worked out well for the others.
Yeah.
And prior to the lot being rained down, what about removing the tree in that island? As much as I hate to say remove a tree, the tree in the church lot, that island is just sitting in.
The one that's over by the Emporium?
It's just an impediment.
Yeah, it's
to
not
the-
very healthy either. We can remove
You
it.
know, and the island that goes along with it.
It's not healthy.
I'm sorry, I hate to say remove a tree, I agree.
Tree gain space.
Yeah, well, it's not even the space, but the island,
The island's an awkward shape,
Yeah,
but
it's-
I
I don't
know,
know.
I'd have to talk to the superintendent.
something, if,
Well, we have to,
That's
look-
what you
yeah,
wanna
we have to
read.
look at that lot to
because once we start
maximize
numbering
space.
spaces and stuff, we're gonna,
Yeah.
our opportunity, the window's gonna be, and we lost
That
8
big
weeks in
island
there.
there is very awkward, you can easily kind of drive over it.
And traffic coming both ways there is very hard. And will everyone wishing to use a smartphone to pay for parking have to have an account set up with this Verigo that
I
he,
don't know yet. What's,
how, that was,
It's probably an app.
No,
It's
no,
very
you don't.
simple.
In Wildwood, they do the exact same thing,
Yeah.
just this phone.
okay.
It's an app.
Yeah, you just dial in or
Okay,
whatever.
because it sounds very odd the way he said if you wanted to use it, okay, I didn't understand that, thank you.
I think when you mentioned was that a store owner would have a certain account, the store owner.
Yeah.
want to add
Is
to
a
it.
store,
Yeah.
okay, how is the computer gonna differentiate between a store and an
The
individual?
store owner opens an account with this provider and can credit someone's parking through that provider. They can actually
Okay.
pay for someone else.
Because you're paying by space.
Okay,
So you could pay for it, if you know, if you wanna help your friend out, you could pay his space too, so.
okay.
They're gonna be scalping these tickets if you go to them.
Will there be public access to the server denoting available spaces,
No.
and what's,
But there is something that, it's great.
He said that was possible
It's
to have.
possible, yeah, it's just
a
the
separation
cost
there.
of where you can go on your smartphone
Yeah.
and see where there's available
Or
spaces.
at least available number, there should be 22 or 12 or 0 available
Yes,
to us.
that is available, yeah.
Okay,
No.
oh, and the intersection, Railroad Avenue, changing that grade, before you get too crazy about raising the road up to that grade, Long Railroad keeps it at that elevation for a reason.
No, we're not raising Railroad Avenue. What
Where
was
the
it?
track is?
What was your question?
They're raising-
We're not gonna pave it all, the railroad paves that, they take care of that. We're not raising any roads for that.
They're gonna do that?
Yeah, that's their job. You're talking about the railroad track.
That's
So they're just
track.
gonna slope it up and slope it
But
back
they
down,
would just did
right?
work on that, right?
Yeah.
So it was
They-
just-
They
straight
redid
one
the
out.
crossing, they put a temporary coal patch, and yes, they did a good job on the crossing, actually, they raised it the way they should.
Yeah.
And now they come
because
back
you
in the
need
hot
that-
patch with
You need
the
that
proper.
elevation,
That'll be there.
it saves a lot of lives,
Right.
that elevation change. As much as it's, yes, I agree with you, slow down. No, it's the biggest issue, but it will.
Why do you keep looking at me, Justin?
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Dennis, I ask you a question.
Yes,
Did I
sir.
read your mind?
I'm sorry?
Did I read your mind about the no parking sign?
Yeah, well, I saw I got part of it done, you know, the 2 more signs would be nice, you know, in the lanes, but
Yeah.
that,
I
at least
just-
they're trying, you know what, now at least when they're parking there, they're putting the flashers on like they're gonna run in, which is great, they're gonna run in and purchase something and run back out, you know what, that's not, you know, they're not sitting there for 8 hours, jamming up Main Street. So, thank you though.
Very good, Todd. I think you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, board, ladies and gentlemen. Don Waxman, 60 Commerce Street. I see a lot of homes with dumpsters and construction vehicles. That's a good thing.
That's good.
There's so much renovation going on, it's great. I'm normally up here talking about 1, 2, or 3 different things. One being the Saturday morning paper advertising. I'm seeing a lot less of them. I don't know if something was done or it just happens to be happening.
Recall, after your complaint, I spoke with their counsel's office, and I said, you know, it's kind of like the cicadas that come out when, you know, when we get tweaked, and they said, okay, they said, we'll look into it, we'll talk to our distribution people.
Well, there was definitely less anyway.
Oh, good, okay.
I'm still picking them up, but
Yeah.
they're not all over the place. Then garbage in front of houses, in proper times, I'm seeing less of that. North Ocean Avenue is a good example. It looks pretty good. And I think, you know, that's gonna draw more people in. You know, maybe people sitting on the fences to whether they wanna live in Patchogue, and if they see streets lined with garbage, it may deter them. Because pretty soon, you're gonna have 291 apartments to fill, plus Riverwalk. We wanna make sure we attract a lot of people. And I personally find this so nice. When you look down the street, you don't see mattresses and bags of garbage on a Saturday afternoon. And if those things are getting taken care of somehow, that leaves one thing, Joe.
That's the signs.
The signs. Silly signs. I mean, there's so many around that, you know, if by chance you remove one that someone complains about, so you put it back. But I mean, there are signs out there that, you know, you can get rid of them. And I find that objectionable. Streets lined with signs. So somehow if we can talk about it again or still, that'd be nice.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Don.